All right, the Georgia Bulldogs with a 59-21 win over UMass today. I know they won by almost 40 points, but this was kind of an ugly game, especially early on. Georgia gave up a UMass touchdown on the first drive of the game, gave up 71 rushing yards on that drive. They end up giving up 226 yards on the ground to a bad UMass team. So, Georgia's offense came to play. Obviously, they scored 51 of those 59 points, but the defense slept in. They did not play physical. They did not play aggressive. They were not swarming to the football. They were missing a lot of tackles. We just didn't see that effort that we usually see from this team. So, obviously got down early 7-0. So, hey, another comeback victory, I guess, for Kirby Smart and the Dogs. But, I mean, the game was obviously never in doubt. This is a cupcake game. Georgia was very vanilla, both offense and defensively. And I'll talk about the offense in a second because they didn't punt. I mean, they went touchdown, 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 field goal, touchdown. I mean, they went up into the 50s offensively. The defense came around in the fourth quarter, but there's no excuses to play the way they did to start this game. I mean, the run defense just didn't show up. They sleptwalked basically through this entire game. Daniel Harris at cornerback. I'm not trying to just crush on these kids, especially on defense today, but Daniel Harris was awful. Awful run support, just no effort there. And he got beat for a 75-yard touchdown pass down the field. He was bad. And, Kirby's got to look at that cornerback room again and say, hey, who's going to step up and make some plays here? But Carson Beck was fine. 20 for 31, 297 yards, 4 touchdowns. The offense looked a little sloppy here and there, but for the most part, they did their job today. They woke up and they came to play, and they moved the ball consistently. I thought Nate Frazier was fantastic. He ran the ball for 130 yards, 136 and 3 touchdowns for the freshman running back. They played well. Lawson Lucky and Cash Jones both had 4 catches. Arian Smith, 3 catches, 110 yards, 1 touchdown. Oscar Delp had another touchdown. So let's talk about the offense real quick. Their first drive, again, down 7-0. Marched right down the field. They scored a touchdown thanks to an Oscar Delp touchdown, kind of a catch and run. Broke a tackle, leaped in the end zone. It's 7-7. I think Georgia went up 14-7. I think it was 28-14 at the half. And at the end of the day, no one's going to think about this game moving forward. It's over. You move on. It was a cupcake game. It didn't matter. You won by almost 40. Now it's time to focus on Georgia Tech. But at the end of the day, they've got to play with better effort. And I know it was UMass. I know that they were played down to their competition. That's a real thing, and that's what they did today, especially defensively. And I'm not going to tear up the offense very much. I mean, they're still kind of banged up, and they made some plays. I still think Carson and Dom Lovett have to get on the same page. I mean, there's at least 2 or 3 times every ball game where those two just aren't clicking together. They're not on the same page for whatever reason. And we saw that a little bit today. I think Dom Lovett had 2 drops, 1 down the field, 1 on a tunnel bubble screen. So they can still clean up some stuff offensively. But defensively, I didn't see the effort until later. UMass came to play, and they established a run game early on. They had like 66 rushing yards in the first quarter, over 100 by the half. No, actually over 100 by the end of the first quarter. Again, you can't give up 220 rushing yards to these guys. I mean, I know they were, holding a little bit. I could see that from the press box. They were grabbing a little bit, but if you're UMass, you're coming down here to Athens. Yeah, if I'm the coach, I'm saying you hold them until it's called. That's the only way we're going to get something going here. Michael Williams, 5 tackles and a sack, a forced fumble. Warren Brinson had a big sack. That came on UMass's second drive. It was 7-7. They were driving. They were in Georgia territory. Looked like they were going to either find the end zone again or kick a field goal, go up 10-7. They had an offensive pass interference. Kirby Smart took it instead of declining it. And Warren Brinson had a big sack. They're out of field goal range. They had to punt. Georgia comes back with their second touchdown drive. I think that was to Cash Jones. But yeah, Carson Beck was, I thought, good. He wasn't perfect, and there were a couple balls he probably should have had back. The ball to Dom Lovett in the end zone for his 3rd touchdown, I believe, just a drop in the bucket. Great over-the-shoulder catch by Lovett, but the ball was right where it needed to be. And then he hit Arian Smith on a deep 50-something yarder, 49-yard touchdown pass for him. So there's a lot to take away offensively. Again, they moved the ball. The only time they didn't score a touchdown or field goal was, I think, on a turnover, and that was one of the sloppier issues that the offense had. But I mean, I want to see some Ellis Robinson. Now I'm tired of seeing Julian Humphrey and Daniel Harris out there at cornerback, either letting guys run right by him or just not bringing that physicality. But I thought Daniel Harris, if I'm Kirby Smart, I'm having a prayer meeting with Daniel Harris tonight and saying, dude, what was that? That was awful. And again, he's just a kid, I guess. Are you a kid at 19, 20? I don't know. And I'm trying not to be harsh on him, but listen, UMass scored 21 points on them. That's unacceptable. And I know it's a cupcake game. I know it doesn't matter, but you still have to play to a standard, and the defense certainly did not play to the standard today. I mean, that's the reality of it. So, yeah, they didn't give it their best. They knew they didn't have. They played like their C game. They were going through the motions a little bit, and still going through the motions, they were still lighting up the scoreboard. So I thought the offensive line played well. Again, Nate Frazier, he was sudden, he was quick, he was explosive, slippery. I thought he ran really hard. I thought Cash Jones played well. We saw some Sokovie White. Chris Cole, number 18, the linebacker. If you turned the game off at the end, you missed him having a monster fourth quarter. He delivered a massive hit on a running back out in the flat. I think the next possession, Quintavious Johnson, freshman edge, knocked the ball loose from the quarterback. Chris Cole comes up, scoop and score, touchdown. He is a special player that is only going to get better and better. The future is incredibly bright. But I wanted to see more of them, and I think that's kind of a failure that from this game, is that we didn't get to see these freshmen, these young players earlier in the game, because the defense was giving up rushing yards. They were giving up points. So I was hoping Georgia would get the game over a little earlier, so we'd see more of Gunnar Stockton and more of Sokovie White and Nitro Tuggle and more of Dwight Phillips and more of those offensive linemen, more of Chris Cole, because when that guy's out there, he's making plays. Ellis Robinson did come in at cornerback to replace. Maybe that was Daniel Harris after he gave up that long touchdown. I'm not really sure, but I do think Ellis Robinson came into the game shortly after that. And if you're Kirby Smart, at some point, Ellis Robinson you can't tell me he's playing worse than Daniel Harris and Julian Humphrey right now. I'm not buying it, but I don't watch every practice. But good day for Carson Beck, 0 turnovers. And again, they should be turning the ball over against UMass, but they also shouldn't be giving up 220 yards on the ground to a team that can't throw the ball. And the first time that dude threw a pass today, I remember thinking, okay, they can't throw the ball. They're going to have to run it. This kid, it was bad. It was bad. So Georgia knew that the only thing they could do was run the ball, and they still were getting kind of pushed backwards. So Christian Miller went down. That looked bad. He was out with a shoulder. It looked kind of like a forearm. I don't know what they said on TV, but collectively, they got to play better defensively. And I know they made some garbage plays late in the game. The defense made some plays. Gabe Harris was he was tough to deal with in that fourth quarter. KJ Bolden forced a fumble early in the game. That was a big deal at the time. But, I don't. The run defense has to be better, and they've got to play better collectively, because Georgia Tech's going to give them their best effort. This is their Super Bowl. They're coming to Athens to ruin Georgia's season. And if they give that type of performance and effort, tackling, just defensively in general, it could be closer than it needs to be. And this game was closer than it needs to be the whole way. I mean, you look at the score, 59-21. Yeah, that's a blowout, but again, they were only at 14 at the half. And the game was going slowly. Georgia was running the ball. They were very conservative, slow-playing game. I mean, they only had 4 offensive drives in the first half. So they were totally fine with playing this game, cautiously and letting the clock run and just kind of getting it over with. At least that's how it felt for a little bit. But they've got to play better. At the end of the day, no one's looking at this game anymore. They just need to bring better effort and be a little more physical defensively. It was not their best performance, and you can make the case this is one of the worst games the defense has played all year. And maybe it was because of the competition, maybe it was too early, but they just didn't wake up. It took them forever to wake up in this game. Thankfully, the offense came to play, and they put up a lot of points. The defense got a touchdown at the end to get to that 59 mark, but good day for Carson Beck. Nice to see some of the freshmen there at the end, but defensively, they got to tackle better, and they will. I think they'll be ready to play, from the start next week at night. Georgia Tech coming to town, a chance to, push their ticket to the playoffs. So I expect a better performance next week. I'm sure we'll get it, but today wasn't great, and they know that, but we'll see. They need a big week of practice to turn that around. They need to figure out one of the cornerback spots, but at the end of the day, 59-21, a game that was probably a little closer, more sloppy than I think Georgia fans would have liked, but it's over. Time to move on. They got Georgia Tech next week, and if they win, they're in the playoffs. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought about this game down in the comment section below. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you over on the website.